When I was stationed in Okinawa, Japan, I thought the hardest battles of my life were happening thousands of miles away. I believed surviving military deployments, spending lonely holidays overseas, and risking my life in service to my country were the greatest sacrifices I would ever make. I was wrong. The real battle wasn't waiting for me on some distant battlefield. It was waiting on the front porch of the house I had spent my entire adult life protecting. My name is Emma Carter, and if someone had told me that my own father would one day steal everything my mother left me to save my irresponsible younger brother, I would have called them crazy. Families argue. Families disappoint each other. But parents don't destroy one child to rescue another. At least, that's what I believed for almost 30 years. Growing up, my mother often said that a house was much more than wood, bricks, and windows. A home, she would tell me while watering the roses in our front yard, is where every memory lives. If you ever lose your home, you don't just lose walls. You lose a part of yourself. At the time, I didn't fully understand her words. Years later, standing on the sidewalk across from that same house, watching strangers carry furniture through the front door, I finally understood exactly what she meant. My childhood wasn't perfect, but it wasn't unhappy either. My mother, Margaret Carter, was a middle school teacher who believed honesty mattered more than wealth. My father, Richard Carter, owned a small construction company that did reasonably well during my early years. Everything changed after my younger brother Jake was born. Jake was the kind of child who could do no wrong in my father's eyes. If Jake broke something, someone else was blamed. If Jake failed a class, the teacher was unfair. If Jake got into a fight, the other kid must have started it. My father always found an excuse. At first, it seemed harmless. But as the years passed, those excuses became a way of life. By the time Jake was 16, he had already been suspended from school 3 times. At 18, he was arrested for vandalizing a local business while drunk. At 20, he dropped out of college after less than 1 semester because, according to him, professors didn't understand his potential. At 23, he accumulated tens of thousands of dollars in gambling debt. Every single time my father paid the bills, defended his behavior, and insisted Jake simply needed one more chance. While Jake lived without consequences, I learned that every achievement required sacrifice. I worked after school, earned scholarships, skipped vacations, and eventually joined the United States Marine Corps. Basic training nearly broke me physically, but it also taught me discipline, resilience, and responsibility. Every paycheck I earned, I divided carefully. Some went into savings, some into retirement, and some into maintaining the only thing I truly treasured, my mother's house. When my mother was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, the disease progressed so quickly that we barely had time to process what was happening. I remember sitting beside her hospital bed during one of my final visits before deployment. The room smelled faintly of disinfectant and flowers. Machines beeped steadily beside her as she reached for my hand with surprising strength. "Emma," she whispered, "I'm here. Mom, I won't be around much longer." "Don't say that," she smiled sadly. "Promise me something. Anything. No matter what happens. Never let this house leave our family." Tears streamed down my face as I nodded. "I promise." She closed her eyes for a moment before speaking again. "I built that home with every extra dollar I ever earned. It isn't valuable because it's expensive. It's valuable because it's filled with our lives." Those were among the last complete sentences she ever spoke. After the funeral, I learned that she had left the house entirely to me. My father didn't object, at least not then. He simply said he was proud of me and promised he would help watch over the property whenever I was deployed overseas. I believed him. After all, he was still my father. Over the next 6 years, I continued serving in the Marines. I was stationed in several locations. before eventually receiving orders to Okinawa, Japan. The assignment would keep me overseas for nearly 3 years. Before leaving, I arranged automatic payments for the property taxes, homeowners insurance, landscaping, and routine maintenance. I even hired a local property manager to inspect the house monthly. Everything seemed secure, or so I thought. Every Sunday morning, despite the 14-hour time difference, I called home. Most conversations were short. My father usually talked about the weather or neighborhood gossip before eventually asking whether I had received another promotion. Jake almost never spoke unless he wanted money. "Hey sis," he'd say casually. "Can you loan me $5,000? I'll pay you back." He never paid anyone back. When I refused, he always accused me of thinking I was better than everyone else simply because I wore a military uniform. "You've changed," he would complain. "No," I always answered. "I've grown up." That difference meant everything. About 8 months before my deployment ended, something felt different during one of our phone calls. My father sounded nervous. His answers were unusually short. Whenever I asked about the house, he quickly changed the subject. "Everything okay back home?" I asked. "Everything's fine. You sure?" Never better. In the background, I heard Jake yelling, "Dad, tell her we need the money now." My father immediately muted the phone. When he returned a minute later, he laughed awkwardly and claimed Jake was arguing with a friend about a football game. I wanted to believe him. Instead, I ignored the uneasy feeling in my stomach. Looking back now, that was the moment my instincts were trying to warn me.